Hello everyone, Bashar here. Patch 760 is here and we have a new permanent fusion after Relic Keeper and Broadmoor. We had Razin and now we have Lady Mikage, who's a mythical champion. And if we do not terribly high roll, it looks like she will be our first mythical champion. So as you can see, she is fused out of 2 legendaries and 2 epics, so none of them is campaign farmable, I'm afraid. I mean, epics are not campaign farmable, obviously. Void rares are not campaign farmable, and these 4 sadly are not campaign farmable, so we'll have to get them the old-fashioned way. As you can see, I do have a Kira and I do have a Vergrand Suncurse. That's a recent fusion epic, and I think like 2 fusions ago, 3 fusions ago, something like that. And we have a Tatsu, who was featured in the Call of the Arbiter series, and she was a reward for winning a champion training tournament, so very few of us will have her. And this is Enda, I think. No, Lockvein. Enda is this one then? Okay, I suppose that one is Enda. Okay. So we have to 60 the legendaries and fully ascend them, and epics have to be 50, the usual style. So we rank them up once and max ascend them and max level them. Rares follow the same pattern as well. You know, we have to rank them up once and we have to fully ascend them. So I mean, Kira is a dwarf legendary. Tatsu we have talked about. This is I think Haya for Sylvan. Okay. And this one is, so other than Kira, everything is, well, brand new might be stretching it, but they are all relatively new to the game. Most epics are also quite new, so I think Eolfring and Aishma are old. Enda and Lady Quillen are, I think, old as well. From the rares, this guy is new, and all of these are old. So I mean, you could have everything at the ready, but it's not very likely. So what I would suggest here, guys, even if you have everything, do try to fuse the legendaries before fusing, because after you fuse the mythical champion, you will lose the option to fuse anything. So the epics won't matter too much, right? If you have the epics at ready, just don't care for this. But if you can fuse the legendaries, just fuse them. And of course, if your account is really end game and you do have your faction guardians of full and whatnot, probably a mediocre legendary won't matter too much. But I mean, if you are below 200, 250 legendaries, I would suggest that you fuse them all. So I have a Kira, but I would like to fuse the Kira before I fuse Lady Mikage. Well, time will tell. Maybe if I get everything other than the Kira fusion, I'll just, would like to go for the mythical champion and be done with it. So there is nothing that is campaign farmable here. These we have to obtain from void shards. We can just directly obtain this and be done with it. These have to come from ancient shards, or maybe if you're terribly lucky, from ancient shards, and also primal shards can contain them as well. We do not have a 10x coming for these anytime soon. Maybe the next Friday, not tomorrow, but 8 days later, maybe we'll get 10x on the epics during the sacred double chance. We'll see. So let's take a look at Lady Mikage herself. So she is a Shadowkin mythical champion, and mythical champions have 2 forms. So in the first form, she's a humanoid, and she turns, as you can tell from the extra legs behind her back, she does turn into a spider humanoid hybrid, and she takes off her mask as well. Ooh, it's scary. And she also does some weird stuff with her hair. So what does she do? So interestingly enough, guys, her both forms are support. So what does she do? Oh, that's what they meant. Oh, that's nice. That is actually pretty nice. Okay, so they did include this in the patch notes, but that is nice. So what does Rayvan do? She ally attacks with a champion from the Shadow King faction. This could go well. Some people will be thinking about Michinaki, but I think it is not very productive with Michinaki, because guys, Michinaki already has a 50% of joining in. You know, that is the highest in the game under two targets under hex debuffs, right? So Michinaki's A1 is very good, but the ally attack thingy gets a little bit wasted. Maybe we could use this with Kyoku, maybe we could use this with Harima, which is not bad at all. So she makes another Shadowkin join in, and she then puts a 10% shield on the ally with the lowest HP, which is similar to Duchess, but of course there is a major difference. She does not put the shield on herself as well, you know, because Duchess does the shield on the lowest HP and herself, right? And the good thing is that the shield that she puts up scales with her HP rather than, you know, the champion's HP. So, you know, you could give her a lot of HP, and you can make the shield bigger. The damage is based on attack, but I don't think we do care too much about her damage per se. So this ability is, you know, very, very interesting, guys. So there is nothing remotely similar to this ability. I mean, the potency is extremely real. So she attacks everyone, right? She does damage. So when I first read that ability, I didn't think it would deal damage, because it does a lot, right? It increases our buff durations, it increases our debuff durations, it increases the enemy's debuff durations, and it decreases the enemy's buff durations all at once, right? She's a force affinity, by the way. There are still no void mythical champions, so you know, the enemy interaction would fail with weak hits on spirit affinity heads, but this ability has a lot of potency. So this does scream Hydra, right? The ally attack, right? And Harima is a good Hydra champion. She's not one of the best, but she's still good. She has the provoke, she has the decreased attack. So I mean, this could be used nicely in tandem with Harima. And she does also ignore 20% of the enemy's resistance, which means you can build her with you know, lower accuracy, and you can also you know, grab some upgrades, live arena upgrades from Hydra accuracy, and maybe an increased accuracy buff, and you could, you know, just build the champion with, let's say, 200 accuracy for Nightmare or something. That would be sufficient with the conditions I suggested. And then she has another ally attack ability. She puts up a 50% increased attack buff and 30% increased crit damage buff, and then she does an ally attack, and she also joins in herself. So the one problem that we have here for Hydra is that attack-based champions are not very good for Hydra, because thing is, guys, normally when you are bringing a nuker, you know, Leorius, Georgid, you know, Tranda, whoever it is, you know, attack-based nuker, you just go for damage, right? You don't really care too much about, you know, defense and HP and whatnot, right? Because you want to hit hard and you can, so you just focus on that. Thing is though, you can't do that in Hydra, because even if you have a revival on your team, the continuous revival, you know, will take turns away from your support, and it will also keep depleting the turn meter of your you know, nuker. So you have to invest a little bit in HP and defense, so your attack based champion is not wiping the floor at all times, right? So the problem with that is you don't really want to give HP and defense to an attack based champions. You want them to nuke better, right? So that is the problem, and that's why HP and defense based nukers are much better at Hydra. Yeah, you know, not I mean, Grazur, Michinaki, Harima, these are very good because their main primary stat also helps them survive, right? So that doesn't go for attack-based champions. So for example, guys, I do have a, you know, relatively good performance in Hydra Clash. I can score about 1.2 billion without any, you know, Tranda or Cadaver shenanigans. Now that's over, thank God. And I don't really use attack-based champions in Hydra. So my Nightmare team has none, right? I'm not gonna say, you know, I'm not talking about Ugo, of course, right? I mean, he deals based damage, he deals damage based off attack, but you know what I mean, you know, attack-based nukers. I do use Razelwarg for brutal and nothing else. So I mean, I do Nightmare, brutal and hard, and the extent of attack-based damaging champions, there is just one Razelwarg in there out of my 18 champions, because as I said, guys, you do not want to invest well, there is also Shamael. You do not want to invest HP and defense in a, you know, nuking champion. That's the problem. So what my long-winded point means, this does not go very good for either. So the increased crit damage is of course good. The ally attack does something, right? Especially if you bring an AoE A1 champion. But the increased attack is not going to be very useful because you will not have too many attack-based champions. So guys, I can't really imagine, you know, 3 attack-based champions in one team. You know, that would be, and I'm not talking about special stuff like accuracy, right? I'm talking about, you know, Sisia, Ninja, Tranda, Leorius, Georgid, whatnot, right? You can't bring those guys because that defeats their purpose, right? So Sisia also, of course, is good, right? You can do it, but as I said, you have to sacrifice their potential. But Supreme Garek is probably the best because, I mean, he is extremely good, and then you can probably tolerate a little bit, but still you are going to sacrifice their damage potential for survivability, because you can't just bring them with, let's say, 30,000 HP and 2,000 defense, right? That's not going to work. You will keep dying, and even if you have a reviver, it will wear you down. So obviously this is not bad, right? But it's not as good as it can be, right? That's what I mean. So this is the metamorph skill. We, you know, change forms, and she cleanses all debuffs from the champion with the highest attack. So guys, I don't know how this works. So the question is this ability smart? So I don't think it is, but I'm hoping it could be. What I mean by that is, so let's say I have a Razelwarg with let's say 4,000 attack, right? But Razelwarg doesn't have any debuffs. And next up I have a Krisk with 2k attack, and he has some debuffs. So does that work that way? I don't think so, right? But I can hope it's a mythical champion. Maybe they did the smart way. I think it will still help the, you know, highest attack champion, and the ability will go to waste, but maybe, right? So this can be helpful if Lady Mikage is indeed very fast. So I want to see something here. Does that? Sorry guys, force of habit. I am clicking on the red dots. I want to see something here. Maybe. Yeah. That's what I want to take a look at. I wanted to see her base stats. Because the fusion screen just shows her as a level 1 what you would get out of. We already have 3 reviews, by the way, and the ratings are not good at all, but of course guys, 3 doesn't mean too much. So she has 21.5k ish HP. That's above average. The attack and the defense, I would rather have hoped for lower attack and higher defense, obviously, because this is not a damaging champion, right? The speed is the highest in the game. She is tied up with a few champions there. 30 resistance and 20 accuracy. Yeah, I guess. And she does have a 80 accuracy aura that works in all battles, which is, you know, identical to Mitralas. And Ginro the Storks, the rarest champion in the game. Maybe today Lady Mikage is the rarest, but a few days later Ginro the Stork will be the rarest. He is the last champion that you get from doing the Doom Tower side rooms, guys. I think he's the 9th in order, so very few people in the world have him. Side discussion done. So this is our base form. So I think it's good for Hydra. I would have loved it if this was increased attack and increased defense buff at the same time, along with the crit damage. Maybe I'm asking for too much. That would have been, you know, that would give our team survivability, and that would increase the damage of defense-based champions. Right? That would have been extremely good. Right now, I will say she's a pretty good Hydra champion. We'll need to see, but you definitely need to bring a Shadowkin champion. And in the worst case, you can just bring, what's the name, Michinaki. And, you know, you can think of this as, you know, the chance goes up to 100% instead of 50%, or you will not have to rely on Hex. So you will not get full value out of it, but it will also not be fully wasted. And let's see what she does in her spider form. So she does a sleep and decrease the turn meter by 15%. So I want to compare this to Siphi, you know, the best CC in the game, probably with A1. So what she does is she ignores the 20% resistance when the ability is booked, which will help, you know, if you give her 400 accuracy, and she will have no problems landing it on champions with 500 resistance, right? But of course 600 won't do. So if you want to use her in this form, right, for PvP, this is a PvP based form. You will have to go harder at accuracy, right? If you want to go for Hydra, you can go for lower, but if you want to do, you know, as I said, PvP, you have to go for higher accuracy. And you can always bring her as a lead for another additional 80 accuracy. So unlike Siphi, she doesn't have a turn meter condition, and unlike Siphi, she also reduces the turn meter, which is very good. But unlike Siphi, she is subject to resistance, right? And that is of course a huge deal. But still, I mean, well, the turn meter thingy, I mean, not requiring 50% turn meter, I don't think that brings a lot. But A1 reducing 15% turn meter, so this is spammable, guys. I mean, and the champion has the highest base speed possible, right? I think 115 is the cap, so she is tied for the highest speed. So you can bring her with like 350 speed or something, and she can literally lock down some champions. Imagine your enemy has, you know, well, not literally, but figuratively. I mean, imagine they have a 180 speed champion. You have a speed aura, you have some turn meter push, and you keep reducing their turn meter by 15%. This is going to be very powerful. right? And she also has a passive that is relying on that does reduce turn meter. So yeah, that could be very powerful. So she does AoE stun and while attacking, and also reduce turn meters by 30%. This is insane, right? I mean, stunning the entire enemy team and reducing their turn meters by 30%. And again, ignore resistance. This is quite powerful. Imagine you have 600 accuracy here. So against 800 resistance, you will have almost a 50% chance of stunning. That is rather powerful, right? And she also brings her own increased accuracy buff. So she puts up increased accuracy buff. And so this wording is interesting. Also removes. So does that happen after the increased accuracy buff has been placed? Because, removing buffs is subject to, accuracy checks. Generally, guys, the game clarifies this situation. The game generally says then, right? So that the buff is placed first, and then the attempt is made after the buff is placed. I would think that it would be after the buff has been placed, but it's not a 100% thing. We'll see. And then gives them weaken. So this is interesting. This ability does not attack. There's no damage involved here. But of course, guys, I mean, imagine if you do A3 first, you put up the increased accuracy, you remove all buffs, then you stun them all, and especially with 50% accuracy, it's going to happen, right? Let's say you have 400 accuracy, that goes up to 600 with the increased accuracy, and you will pierce 20% of enemies' resistance. So even if they have like 750 resistance, you will be stunning them with 92% chance. So yeah, the kit is very sick for PvP. And then this is the metamorph ability again, and in this form, instead of cleansing the champion with the highest attack, this time we reduce the turn meter of the highest enemy attack by 15%. So of course this is pretty good as well, combined with this ability and this ability. So as a PvP controller, she is very good, right? Imagine putting her in the team with Arbiter, Arbiter, Siphi, Lady Mikage, and the Nuker, right? You will be controlling the enemy pretty good. So I mean, I don't think she would be able to control as good as Yumeko, but she will certainly be up to something. So I would say this is it's a mythical champion, right? And it doesn't require very unreasonable, so I would say it's a must get, right? And you can use her to your heart's content, right? You can use her in Hydra, you can use her in PvP, you could make a happy combination of both. I mean, she would not excel in either, but she would still be useful in both, right? So high speed is always valid, right? But high accuracy is good for the PvP side, but not that required for the Hydra side. And I mean, you could just overshoot the Hydra a little bit if you want her to be useful in PvP, or you could just say, okay, 400 accuracy is enough for me, right? Because you will be getting the ignore resistance and the increased accuracy buff anyway on the PvP side. And you could mix and match as well, but it doesn't really look like the Hydra part will be particularly good in PvP, or the PvP part being particularly good in Hydra, right? Because I mean, you can't stun, and she can obviously be used for Doom Tower climb. I mean, the AoE stun and decrease turn meter by 30% is rather good. If she's fast enough and you have a lot of turn meter push, you can almost lock them down. There will be also the 15% turn meter decrease on the enemy with the highest HP, highest attack. So all in all, pretty good, guys. So mythics have been not game defining up until this point. So I would say that goes for her as well. So she's pretty good, right? She's very useful, and she is definitely worth fusing because we are not gonna lose anything to cry about here. And the reward is pretty good, so hopefully you were lucky enough to fuse this. So far 3 reviews are there, so I would guess less than 10 people were able to fuse it, but I'm hoping that Plarium will introduce some sort of 10x on the epics or something, and we'll see, and I'll see you on stream. Bye bye, guys.